When should you order records? These are like birth, marriage, death, records, military records. When should you actually pay to get a copy of those records? This was a great question that came in from a viewer, and so I wanted to jump in and talk about that. So if this is your first time here, my name is Connie Knox. I am a professional genealogist here to help you go further, faster, and factually with your family history research. So when should you order these certificates or copies of military records, land records, wills, deeds, all of that kind of stuff? When should you order those? We're going to talk about that coming up next. We're going to talk about where to find the records, how to find some of them for free so that you don't end up paying for something that you don't need to, and all of the different little aspects of how you can find some of these records and why you should. Okay, so why should you? You should because you can find more information sometimes in those records if you get a hold of the actual records. So a lot of times on Ancestry, on FamilySearch, on MyHeritage and whatnot, sometimes these records are indexed, but they're not always the original records online. So how do you get a hold of those original records? Because often they have more information, as I will show you today. Okay, so before we really jump into this, I want you to think for a moment about your research question, because that is going to kind of help drive whether you seek the record, whether it's free or not, and or take the time to transcribe it and abstract it and do all that stuff, and or pay for the expense of the record. So think about your research question. Will finding this record help answer your research question? And it may be something as simple as I'm trying to find a birth date or something. So keep that in mind as you are considering buying or chasing an original copy. Now, I do this, especially in my direct line ancestors, a very thorough research and try and capture every original record I can to prove that this is the next generation back. Sometimes I have to go sideways to the siblings, depending on what generation back I am, but sometimes I have to go sideways in order to find that. Do I order copies for those siblings? Does it answer my research question? That's probably the driving force. So the type of records that you might be wanting to seek, the originals, to find more information, right? Might be birth, marriage, death, land records, wills, court records, things like divorce records, right? Social security records, believe it or not, they're not all online. Military records. There's so many different types of records that you could actually order the originals of if they're not available online. So let's start with birth, marriage, and death records. Okay, so for birth, marriage, and death, and really we often, refer to these as vital records. We're talking the civil version of these records because birth, marriage, and death records go back hundreds of years in church records. But the civil records, at least in the United States, began around 1909. That was when it was mandated. Marriage records, however, often, depending on where, what state, what county, may have been mandated much earlier, like in the 1850s. So you just have to look that up. They're going to likely be at the county level. But before you go and look for them on FamilySearch. So you want to start with the FamilySearch Wiki. Over on the FamilySearch Wiki, now if you're new to genealogy, you're probably going to realize, oh, wait a minute, what the heck is she talking about? This is a free website, and I promise you it's going to become your best friend. So there's so much to find here, and it's all free. So go to search and drop down to the Research Wiki. And then the next thing you're going to do is drill into the location in which you are searching. So here we are scrolling down to, I'm going to just scroll down to the United States. If you are in a different part of the world, you might go somewhere else. I'm just going to try New Jersey for grins and giggles. And once you get to the state level, you get a lot of information, but you can also drill into the county level. And you can click on the map or click on the links below. And here it will tell you when birth, marriage, and death records began. And while you're here, you get a lot of other information about some of the other records that we're talking about, okay? So as long as you're here, You're going to try and find those records either on Ancestry, MyHeritage, FamilySearch, wherever you are, but it will often tell you where some of those records are here in the wiki. So if you want to, most of the time, birth, marriage, and death records, unless they're really old, and that's usually held at the state archives, you can go over to the website for the county and see if they happen to allow you to search them online. But before you do that, go search your ancestors on the family tree, because my Family Search is really big into marriage records. And so if you go, and even if you search records over here and you search for records, or you search through the family tree to see if other people have uploaded records for your ancestor, because it's one world collaborative tree, it's very possible that people have shared stuff that they have found or purchased and added it to the website. So I don't want to hear anything in the comments about whether that's legal or not. I'm just saying you might find it. Before you go and purchase it, make sure that you have checked on the Family Search Wiki, because they are really big into marriage records, and there's a very good possibility that they might have the birth and death records as well. Also check with Ancestry to see if they have them. Even if you're not a member, you might find them. If you find, a lot of times these indexes, even on Ancestry, if you don't have a membership, you can search the indexes, and if you find it in an index, a lot of times you can grab the certificate number, and now you've got some information from which to go find those original records. What about state archives? So they have all of those really old records, those really old military records, like Rev War records, right? They have things like wills that, after years and years, the county can't hold on to all of that stuff anymore, and they ship it off to the state archives. And so a lot of the counties, at least in my state here in North Carolina, a lot of the counties were mandated to turn over their older archives to the state for better keeping, because, hurricanes and that kind of thing. Counties just couldn't afford to keep up with all of those records. So the state archives have a lot of those old records. This is an episode from a couple of years ago. I will leave a link in the description if you want to see that. It's all about the state archives, and the handout that goes with that episode has every state archive, their email address, their phone numbers, everything that you can, the state archives, that's what they're there for. They're primarily there for genealogy and historic preservation. And so when you call, you're speaking their language. I'm looking for this record, this old land record, this old, Revolutionary War record, or do you have any military or militia movement information, that kind of stuff. Yes, Fold 3 has a lot of that stuff, but the state archives has a lot of it too. And guess what? Your taxpayer dollars pays for that. So make sure that you are checking that out. And sometimes you will have to pay if you're remote. And I've done this before. I call the state archives and I say, hey, I found this record in your catalog. Can you please pull it for me and email it to me? And they'll say there's a $2 fee for that or whatever. Usually it's not a lot. I typically will ask for everything in the file because I don't want them to have to pick and choose. I just want everything in the file, and it's usually like 25 cents a page or something. So often it's worth it. It certainly is a lot cheaper than going to the state archives and spending all that gas and hotel bills and all of that to just go look at a record. But if you can see it in person, oh boy, that's a fun road trip. Speaking of state archives, a lot of times you can just Google digital collections or, Louisiana State Archives digital collections or whatever, and you will be able to find the digital collections website. And, especially during the pandemic, this gave them a great opportunity to digitize a lot of stuff because, we were shut down for over a year. And so that gave them an opportunity to digitize a bunch of stuff for people like you and me who like to find stuff online. So go check it out. Now, a lot of times you can find the county registrar of deeds in the county, so you can search the county registrar of deeds that you are researching in. I do a lot of research on this particular website. I go to records and real estate, then I drill into real estate records. And a lot of these records are available online. And so you have to acknowledge a lot of times that you are, not a robot. And then you can search the records online and you can find, some really cool stuff. Now, I always go to the old index records because that's what I'm looking for, and I'm going for the oldest stuff. So, as I'm researching, I'm just having a ball going through and finding stuff, and you just have to work your way through it. You do have to learn how to use some of these websites. For example, this is the old COT system, where you would have, like, I'm looking for Davis, right? So there's no Davis in this, so I need to advance to the next page. This is the index part of the book, and here's Davis on page 1. So I come up to the next box and I hit page 1 and hit go. Now, this is part of that computer something system. I forget what that's called. But so it may look similar on other websites. There's a lot of counties, at least in the South, that use this. I don't know about where you are researching, but then you can start searching. There, in this case, this old COT system is roughly by date, but it's not exactly. So I would say it's by decade more than anything else. And you can sit there and flip through until you find what you're looking for. And then you go, oh, there's what I'm looking for. Let's see, that is book and page, right? So we're going to go to Jesse Davis, 11-264. So I go to the next box and I go book 11, page 264, and I hit go. And bada bing, there's the record. I'm not going to make you read it, but I'm just saying this is another way that you can get to some of those original records. Now, you may have to evaluate them to see if they actually are like your ancestor's signature, or if it's a clerk's copy. If all the handwriting's the same, it's the clerk's copy. So there's their answer for that. But County Register of Deeds online, a lot of them have it. Hey, we're going to get back to that video here in just a moment, but I want to let you know that Genealogy TV has a website, a newsletter, and a Facebook page. Links for all of that are in the description box below the video. All right, let's get back to it. So let's talk about Social Security records. So you can get to the Social Security index, what is it called? The death index, on both FamilySearch and on Ancestry, and I think you can get to it on MyHeritage as well. But the Social Security Applications and Claims Index, which is a different index, is only available on Ancestry the last time I checked. So apparently, while I'm trying to record this, there is a worldwide outage for a lot of the internet today. So apparently, Ancestry is having part of that same problem. They can't seem to come back online either. However, let me tell you this. So besides the Social Security Death Index and the Social Security Applications and Claims Index, there is something called the SS5. And this is a copy of the SS5 from my great-grandmother. This is just one example, but it is one of the very few records that I was able to obtain that actually had her parents' names on there, including her mother's maiden name. So this was worth it to me to prove, because these are Danish ancestors. These folks came over on the ship, and I wanted to make sure I had the right people. So this was a long time ago that I applied for this, but you can't get the SS5 record. That's the application where people were applying for a Social Security card. You can't get the SS5 online. And so, long story short, this was great to be able to have this record for me. So sometimes it is worth it. This is one of the more expensive records. I believe it's somewhere around $60 to apply for it. But so sometimes it is worth it. Again, what's your research question? Does it answer your research question? In this case, it did for me. So when should you order records, right? Again, it goes back to really what's your need, what's your budget, because there's every time you order a record, you can even order them through Ancestry. If you get to a vital record, sometimes there's VitaCheck, I think it's called, where you can drill in. And a lot of counties nowadays, that's the only way you can get records is through that service. And it's like 30 to 40 bucks. I don't know. Leave a comment if you know how much you paid for what county. Simply said, it really comes down to what is it worth to you? Because does it answer the research question? And is it the only record that can answer the research question? Do you have other records? Did you find a probate record that supports your research question about what the next ancestor back, the next generation back is? Does it tell who the parents are? So if you're finding other records, you might not need them. It's up to you as to when you should order those records. Where to find them? Go to the Research Wiki. So on FamilySearch, go to search, drop down to the Research Wiki, and you can drill in. A lot of times it'll give you that information right there, depending on the type of record that you seek. Don't forget you've got things like military records. That's in the St. Louis, at least in the United States, the St. Louis repository. That is going to be hit or miss depending on the branch of service, because a lot of the Army records were wiped out in a fire. And so it just depends on the era, right? And you might also try the National Archives and see what they have as well. How would you feel if you could resolve some of those brick walls in your family tree? Or maybe you're just getting started in genealogy. What if you had the skills to prove your family history, taking you back generation by generation, time and time again? Hi, my name is Connie Knox, and here at the Genealogy TV Academy, I help genealogy enthusiasts like you break down brick walls by learning smart research methods. I help you find the records, and I help you get organized so that you can share your family history with your family and future generations. I do this through a monthly membership course. There are two components to this. Now, there is the self-guided platform where you can take the courses on your own time. And, well, I'm adding one new lesson per month. And then the live Zoom meetings where you can watch a live presentation in the virtual classroom and participate in the discussion after the presentation. Now, if you can't make one of the live sessions, don't worry. All the programs are recorded and are added in the course platform following the presentation. Now, if you have any questions, be sure to see the FAQ section at the bottom of the page. And if you still have any questions, click the contact link and I'll be glad to answer your questions. So, are you ready to learn some new skills to help prove your family history, get organized, and break down some of those brick walls? All right, well, if you want to learn more, hit the Get Start button to learn a little bit more about pricing and how you can get signed up. All right, we'll see you in the virtual classroom.